2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do you know you're dealing with sex addiction or pornography addiction? What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it.
Great question, Brandon. This is kind of back to the basics of what we do.
Very much so. Yes.
This one, how many times do you think you get asked this in a week?
Oh, yeah. Many, many times.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we're going to get into it in just a second. We're actually going to use our question as our review today because there's a little bit of a review right at the beginning. So I'll just jump into it and let's get going.
Let's do it.
All right. I absolutely love your podcast. It truly is free therapy for me. Although with the caveat, I'm going to say we're not professing to give free therapy
No.
here, right? Y'all make me laugh and cry, and I learn so much from listening. I've gone back to the first podcast, and I'm listening to every single one. I'm currently on August of 2018, but I don't want to skip anyone because I don't want to miss something important. My question is, what constitutes a sex addict or porn addiction? I discovered my husband's porn use about 3 months ago. This was after I discovered an affair a year ago. He continues to use porn and continues to lie about it. I cannot trust him. I want my marriage to work, but more importantly, I want him to seek help and get better. We've had 2 sessions of therapy after his affair and nothing since. I continue praying about this, and I'm growing closer to God. He is the only one who can help me get through this. Thanks for your expertise and for your informative podcast. I will continue listening. All right. Well, thank you for reaching out. We appreciate the questions.
Yeah. Awesome. So I want to back up a little bit, Tyler, and kind of set the stage context a little bit here for this. And what's awesome about me and Tyler is, like, we truly are unique in that we're brothers and we work in such a niche thing, right? And we're both experts in that niche. And so we get Tyler's perspective, we get my perspective. It's amazing when I talk to Tyler how much I relate in terms of he sees the same things day in and day out that I see, although we run different practices and meet with different clients. And so one thing that I see, Tyler, is a real confusion about what is sex addiction, what is porn addiction, especially in our culture where it's highly religious, pretty rigid. And so I meet with guys that go to massage parlors 3 times a week, sleep with prostitutes, hide all these things from their wives, act out in every way possible. And I'm sure we could shock our audience with some of the things that we hear. Extreme, crazy, pushing the limits, illegal, just crazy stuff that we hear. And then I meet with guys who believe that they're sex addicts because they get too many boners. They get an erection too often, and they think they're a sinner, and they reject their sexuality because of any sexual thought. So there's like a anxiety disorder going on about their sexuality because they're judging it as such a sin and so bad and awful. So they're coming to see us because they believe they're sex addicts. And then we have the guys who are really acting out. And so these are the 2 extreme examples.
Sure, and there's a whole spectrum in between those things for sure.
Yeah, so it leads to the question of what then is a sex addiction.
Right, and maybe this conversation that we're going to have today will spell out maybe what addiction is and what leads to a sex addiction, but maybe part of the conversation we need to have today is whether or not it needs to be called an addiction to be addressed.
Yeah.
In terms of certain behaviors. So if you look at it from a traditional sense, if sex addiction is a little bit different because it's an interesting topic because it does have such a wide range of what people think it is, right? Whereas like a drug addiction, I know that there's a physiological dependence on the drug that I need, whether it's alcohol or say pain pills.
It's very obvious.
And I'm going to get physical response if I don't get that drug, and I constantly have to pursue it. And it happens on, a regular, almost daily basis for most people who are addicted to substance.
Right. And you're usually doing something illegal to get the drug.
Sometimes.
Right? Sometimes, yeah. But this is another indicator of the unmanageability of the addiction. Right. It's more obvious, like, I have to go, find it in some way.
So I'm gonna share kind of a classical definition of what an addiction is, and then we can maybe build in a discussion as to how you would measure that in a sexual way. Yeah. All right. The classical kind of definition of an addiction is the use of a substance or behavior to increase pleasure or decrease pain such that it starts to have a negative impact in my life and I can't seem to stop it.
Right. Yes. I concur with that. Another word I throw in there is, the rate and duration increase over time, and my life becomes unmanageable. Right. And meaning I have a bunch of consequences coming. And even though those consequences are coming, I still don't stop that behavior. Yes. So that compulsion outweighs the consequences that come. And that, to me, that's a basic definition of addiction, because to me, addiction is much more than that. I believe addiction is somebody's attempt to find God. I really, truly believe addiction is an attachment disorder. So it's about disconnection from self. It's about disconnection from God and others. And so when you start to evaluate, does somebody have an addiction, you can see the trauma, and you can see the ways that they're detaching from their self, God, and others. And so it's not just about the compulsion. It's the symptoms of addiction are much more than just, I can't stop
the acting out part of it.
Yes.
Right.
And
I think when we look at addiction and how we both look at the idea of an addiction is that the acting out itself is really just the fruit of a plant that has roots into much deeper things related to that idea of connection to God, self,
the
and
acting
others.
out is more the symptom than the problem.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
The acting out is what brings people into our office, but ultimately the recovery process is about truly just learning the principles of being a wholehearted person.
It's healing your heart.
Yeah. It's healing your heart and learning to live a connected life. And so like a lot of times people will come in and they get so hung up on the word addict. Am I an addict or not? And there's this weird thing in our world right now where there's like connotations to the word addict.
Yes.
Right? Like if I come in and I'm told I'm an addict, there's actually some research that shows this, that defining myself as an addict is actually not healthy. Because that
it drives that home.
It drives it home. It feeds the shame. The shame continues the cycle. And so there's some of the traditional ways of doing therapy was that you'd come in and be like, I'm so-and-so, I'm an addict.
Yes.
And there's like this helpless, hopeless, like, oh, like I'm a terrible person because I'm an addict. Whereas the flip side of that is that, well, we don't acknowledge addiction at all. And then that means like,
so what I've found, Tyler, I mean, 12-step is big on I'm an addict. And when I first started doing this, I very much would push that with my clients, like own that what it is. Here's the thing. That's not what it is. I don't believe, I believe that I am a person struggling with addiction. That's very, very different than I'm an addict. I am an addict. And so what I say it now, and that's how I say it, like a person struggling with addiction, not an addict. I hear things like addict mode. I hate that. Where you're in addict mode, you're an addict. And that's just saying I don't see you as a human. I don't see anything about you. I see your addict, your addiction. And the fact of the matter is an addict with quotation marks is way more than just their addiction.
Exactly. And that's, I use the language myself. I've kind of followed suit over the time as we were trained in a traditional model, which is like, you're an addict, what it's like. Now I actually look at it, and I can look at it even inside myself. And I believe every one of us has this is that I have a part of me that you could call your addict self or your natural man,
or that is addicted,
your unhealthy side, or this part of me that does have these addictions. I think there's a reason for distinguishing that, because then it allows me to not go into shame over it. But at the same time, I do have to come to a place where I look at my life and I say, okay, is this behavior that I keep engaging in,
right?
Is it making my life unmanageable in some way? And if it is, then I have to be able to say, this is a problem. It is a big problem, and I'm responsible for figuring out how to manage this problem.
Yes.
And if I can't, so maybe the idea of, am I an addict? If it's done in terms of what you just described, which is a part of me is addicted to something, when I say I'm an addict, I'm meaning it that way and saying I can take ownership for this. That's healthy. When I'm saying it like, oh, I'm a terrible person.
Identity, shame.
For once an addict, always an addict. It's like, guess what?
Not helpful.
Every single person in this world, whether we want to call it something different, has a dark side.
Yes.
Like every one of us does. Right. And the job here is to own that fact that we have a dark side and pretend it's not there, and to go to work on it.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then we can use the word addiction in a different light. That's a growth minded, idea instead of a you suck idea. But
okay, pull the reins a little, Tyler. Like chill out. Let's not go so far, so fast, so deep, so, heavy therapy. Let's just like come back to what are indicators of addiction? What we talk about that these things are the symptoms. Well, let's talk about the symptoms. When you start to either look at it for yourself of, do you have an addiction, or you're in a relationship and you're wondering, am I dealing with a partner with a sex addiction? What are some of the things that you're going to see? I think the number one thing is secrecy and lies. Denial is addiction's best friend. So you'll start to see different ways of manipulation, lying,
covering up,
deceit, covering up. Very good sign. No, it doesn't mean that if your partner's lying to you that they're automatically struggling with an addiction. But if they're pretty persistent in their denial and their manipulations and their lies, something might be going on. That and the reason they have that denial is they don't want to lose the relationship. They don't want to lose you, but they don't want to lose their addiction. And so if they can keep the secrecy and the lies going, they can try to hang on to both. So. Right.
Yeah. So I call these things, some of these things I call them secondary character defects of the addiction. So the focus is usually, the acting out part, but really the place where a lot of the work is actually saying, okay, what are the things in my life, my character flaws, or the ways that I approach life, or my belief systems that fuel the continue acting out? And that's going to be all that stuff you're talking about, the denial, the hiding, the lying, the minimizing.
But Tyler, here's the thing. What you're saying, secondary, it is I like how you say that. And those things do almost more damage than the actual acting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they don't get the attention because the acting
Yes.
out's the big thing that
That's
everyone's
the bull in
worried
the china
about.
closet.
Right.
Yep.
So the addiction, like the acting out part of it, is what brings people into therapy. But the actual healing and work is more often on that secondary outer circle of,
Yes.
man, I do things. I'm living. So if I'm living in a way where I have to hide, does that mean my life's unmanageable?
Yes.
Yeah. If I'm living in a way where I'm constantly having stress and struggle over my relationship based off of this behavior, is that unmanageability?
Yes.
Right? That's unmanageability. Am I living in a spot where my brain power gets sucked up in all sorts of fantasy and objectification throughout the day for several minutes or hours, to the point that I'm not as effective at work as I could be? Is that unmanageability?
Right.
Do I need to act out to maintain my concentration? Is that unmanageability?
Right.
Yes. All these things, people don't think about that as unmanageability.
Is my self-worth being deteriorated,
self-confidence,
as a result of living a double life?
Mm-hmm.
That's unmanageability.
Is my sex life struggling because I have expectations based on what I've pursued and seen that aren't going to be real inside my relationship?
You don't need the cops showing up at your doorstep and putting handcuffs on you to realize, oh, my addiction's gotten to the unmanageable point.
Exactly. Unmanageability can be so many other things that most people don't really consider and say, oh, wow, like I didn't realize that my life was maybe unmanageable that way.
Yes.
Yes. When I wake up fully triggered every morning and I have to do a whole bunch of work to bring my anxiety down and do all that work, that's using up the willpower that I could have for other projects. Is that some form of unmanageability?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I've got a guy who I've worked with for a long time. I haven't seen him in several years because he's doing so good, but he came in the first session. He has literally been battling with what he called an addiction, and he's been looking at porn about once a year for like the last 15 years inside of his marriage. And by standard definition, that's not an addiction. Right. But what it was doing is it was robbing him of his strength and confidence to be the kind of husband and father he wanted to be. He was keeping secrets and covering up and hiding. And then when his wife did find out, it was devastating and it caused a bunch of strain.
Right.
And so I don't know that you can say that guy's an addict, but you can say that the recovery work he needed to do was still viable and very
really
important,
good for him.
Right. And he needed to do those things.
Right.
And because if he wanted to look at that one acting out a year as an addiction, and it meant enough to him to say, I'm going to take it so seriously that I'm going to do all the work that I need to do.
Right.
Good on him.
Right. Well, it doesn't hurt him.
No.
So what Tyler just listed, all these ways that you could be unmanageable, those are symptoms of addiction. Those are consequences of things that happen as a result of an addiction. Another very common one is when somebody is acting out or using drugs, using sex, what they're doing is they're using something to avoid coping and numbing out the pain in their life. So instead of working through pain, and I'll say this, instead of working through emotions, they learn how to get a hit and numb out. And what happens when you don't work through emotions? And well, I'll ask you, Tyler, what happens when you don't work through emotions and work through pain and you just numb it out over and over again?
You basically lose the ability to cope in other ways, and eventually you turn to the same place over and over again. And that's how the nature of a traditional addiction forms is that, maybe my brain has all these things that are full of my social life and my hobbies, my interests, my passions, but then I find this one thing that really takes care of me in a moment, but it doesn't teach me how to live life on its terms.
Right.
As I go back to it over and over again, eventually my brain's smart. We're smart people, and our brain says, well, geez, if that fixed boredom, it'll fix stress, and it'll fix anxiety, It'll fix fear, it'll fix hunger. And pretty soon I'm getting these urges and triggers to go to that thing. And imagine that your brain has all these compartments of different pieces, and all of a sudden the hobbies piece goes, I don't need you anymore. I'm just going to go and cope. Or like the relationship piece says, I don't really need to focus on that because I know a way to cope with life. And pretty soon I find myself shrinking all these other really beautiful parts of my life out of my life. And I'm left with nothing but the need now to simply just have it to cope with life.
Yeah. And so keep going with me for a minute, Tyler. So as your life gets unbalanced, as you're not coping with your emotions, as you're using or acting out over and over again, What are some of the consequences of a person who starts living that way? Like what happens to their life?
Their life becomes sort of closed in. They feel very alone, even though they might have a bunch of friends around them. They don't let people in to actually see them. They lose a sense of, I would say, after a period of time, it's almost like life gets turned into, I call it for myself, I call it grayscale. It's like what used to be vibrant and colorful and alive and rich, everything sort of just starts to become muted, and there's a lot less vibrance to living.
Yes.
in relationships, in passions and hobbies and hopes and dreams. All of those things sort of just get muted and numbed out.
Yeah.
It's like somebody who, it's like taking an anti-anxiety medicine that numbs everything down.
Yes.
Right?
I call it a deathless death, where you learn how to live and breathe, but not live. Like you learn how to get through life. And addiction's really good at getting you through life, but you're dead. And to me, I see everything you're saying. It leads to depression. It leads to suicide.
Anxiety.
It leads to anxiety. Oftentimes, too, it leads to volatility, because you're stuffing. Then all of a sudden, your kid says something that you don't like, and it's like, boom,
comes out sideways.
So you're very up and down, where a normal person's somewhere in the middle.
Sure, we still all have emotions, but we can manage those things if we know how to cope and live life on its terms. And we're moving through life as it happens, instead of letting it just build, and then all of a sudden the wrong thing happens. And
someone with an addiction will be volatile.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so unmanageability, a lack of emotion regulation, and you talked on this, isolation. Whether you see it from the outside, but inward isolation is another sign of addiction. Anything else you can think of?
Yeah, the internal story, and this is where people have to be honest with themselves, but there's a few things that drive the addiction from the inside out, and there's some beliefs that are very common when there's an addiction present. It's common for all of us to have these beliefs from time to time, but when there's an addiction, it's almost like they're all paired together, and it's the shame idea. Shame is usually the root of most addiction.
Yes.
That's really the root of it, and the shame says I'm not enough in some way. I'm weak, inadequate, failure, unlovable, whatever it is. That's one belief. The other belief is that I can't show other people, because if they see me, they'll leave me, and that's scary for us.
So they become a poser.
Yeah.
They become fake.
They
put on a show. They shame screen a lot.
And then the third part is that because I can't let anybody in, I have to take care of my needs. I'm the only one.
I'm not going to be connected to others.
I can't really connect. Help. I can't ask for help. I can't show what's actually going on with me. And so then I learned to cope with things in those ways.
Yeah.
And the thing is that those things are very powerful. We all have our favorites, but you and I both know that if we went and looked up porn today for an hour, there would be a physiological response that would feel really good.
Oh, I know your favorite was Hot Lamp at Maverick.
So, oh man, you remember when we used to, where that started, Brandon? So, you guys, quick story here. Brandon and I, when we were in high school, we had a dad who was a little bit forward thinking for us, and he said, I got to teach my boys how to work. So he went out one day and he bought a lawnmower, and then he went up the street to a couple of streets away, and he went and found a couple of elderly people who needed their lawn mowed, and he got me and Brandon each our own first lawn job, which thanks to Dad for that. Like, he taught us how to work hard. But what he did is he then tethered the lawnmower to the back of our bike with a bungee cord, and then we had to ride that lawnmower over the neighborhood with a bungee cord. This is crazy. It was nuts. But anyway, we started a lawn care business, and
I think I was the first 11-year-old to start a lawn care business.
And then you got the worst end of it too, because you got the crotchety old mean man with a really thick lawn, and I got the nice dude who had his own lawnmower, and he gave me like sodas afterwards. But anyway, we started that, and that grew into a business where we were actually had several accounts, and we were
put myself through college that way.
Pay our way through college. But the pattern that we used to have was that we would go and do like 10 or 15 lawns, and we wouldn't take a drink. We wouldn't eat anything. We would purposely like starve ourselves out. And then we go into Maverick.
Well, Maverick's a gas station.
It's a local gas station. And we would get a 64-ounce soda and drink about 40 ounces and then refill it before we left. And then we'd go to the hot lamp and we'd buy like corn dogs and burritos and whatever we wanted. And we'd buy whatever we wanted because that was like our reward for all the hard work we'd done, right? And so here we are, these young teenage kids.
Just like pure dopamine.
Just
from
like
the gas
straight
station.
up dopamine from the hot lamp, you know?
I'm surprised we survived that.
It's like that. And you know what's funny about that, Brandon, is that I don't know how we did survive it, but that turned into, now here I am a 42-year-old man.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do when I'm stressed out
is go to the hot lamp.
I go to Maverick's hot lamp.
Yep.
And it's like a habit loop, right? Because what's happened now is that I've learned to cope with my stress and anxiety in that way.
Yes.
I remember one day I had a client call me from the parking lot and he said, "Tyler, I'm here, but I'm not coming in." And I'm like, "Come on in. Like, what's going on?" He's like, "I can't." He's like, "I cut myself." And I went running out to his car and he had slit his wrists and there was kind of blood spattering all over the car and stuff. And so I kind of got his wrist covered up and then I took him to the hospital and got him checked in on the suicide watch and things. And as I was driving away, there was a gas station right by the hospital. I went into that gas station.
After you dropped him off.
After I dropped him off. I'm feeling tons of like stress. I'm feeling anxious for him, pain for him. I'm feeling
That's
a ton of
traumatic day for you.
Failure as a therapist, and so I literally walked in there and I got, no joke, I got 2 corn dogs, a burrito, like 3 tornadoes and a thing of those like mini tacos. And I'm sitting in my car.
You're making me gag.
I know. And I'm like sitting in my car driving back to my office and I'm already like halfway through the second corn dog when I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then it hit me and I was like, this is emotional coping. And here I am 20 years later, doing the same thing that I learned to do as a teenager to manage my feelings. And it felt so like, it was almost like meeting an old friend.
Right.
That is the process of addiction.
Well, and it's everywhere in our lives, our phones, our social media, when you see someone at the grocery store that you don't want to say hi to because you don't want to start a long, you grab your phone, get on it and use it to avoid and use it to escape. And so we all have our addictions. It's we all understand what addiction is on a personal level to some degree. But addiction, and we have our addictions, but it can really turn into an attachment disorder when the shame, when the addiction really starts to fuel and feed that shame, which then leads to the disconnection in relationships and the manipulations in relationships. So I guess to answer the question, you'll see the compulsive behaviors, but you'll also, if you're in a relationship with somebody struggling with an addiction, you'll start to feel crazy yourself because you're trying to and wanting to connect to somebody who is actually working really hard not to connect to you. And they might want to connect to you, but they also want to disconnect. They want to live in denial. And so it's common for partners of someone struggling with an addiction to feel crazy, to feel hopeless, to try to do whatever they can in order to be seen. I show this video. It's the still face experiment, and it's a great analogy of, it's a Harvard study where a mom just puts a still face on in front of her daughter. And the daughter smiles at first. She screams, she cries, she starts doing all this stuff in desperation to create some connection with the mom. And the mom just does nothing and doesn't connect back. And I show that video because that's how a partner feels with an addict or someone struggling with an addiction is I desire connection and I can't have it. And so that's where, if you're feeling those feelings, what you don't want to do is to avoid addressing it and step into some conflict and dealing with the addiction. The addiction will wedge between the relationship unless the addiction is dealt with.
Yes.
So
absolutely. And the person who asked the question here, it sounds to me like there's continued hiding, like there's continued, like all of the other secondary things inside that question are happening right now.
I heard addiction from your partner.
Yeah.
Yes, it's there.
There's definitely, whether we want to call it that or not, I don't care, but there's a problem that's causing disconnection and that needs attention. And so I just want to reemphasize too.
But she can't fix it.
She can't fix it.
But what she can do is show up solid and strong and boundaried in fixing it herself.
And she can continue to do her own work regardless of whether or not he decides to get better. With that, I do want to reemphasize this, that I believe that the principles of recovery that we teach, they are sometimes the biggest gift that my clients have is the fact that they have the acting out that forces them in to come learn and develop the life they want. And so whether you have like a high level addiction where you literally are going to go through withdrawals if you've stopped it, or you look at porn once a year, but it causes you to not like yourself and have no confidence and it causes stress on your marriage. I don't care if you call it an addiction or not, but those principles are still the way to live. So it's worth going and getting the help that you need to live the life that you were designed for.
Recovery is so beautiful. And just, I mean, and sobriety is a long-term byproduct of real recovery. Like long-term sobriety is a byproduct of real recovery. So somebody can be totally in their addiction and not be acting out. They can be a dry drunk. But when you live your life in a way where you're stepping into the pain, where you're an authentic, honest person, you face your blemishes and your flaws, you deal with them, you take accountability with others, and you're vulnerable in your life. You live a life that's full of connection and it's beautiful. And what do you know? You don't need to go get a hit somewhere to feel okay, because you're actually enjoying your life.
Yeah, and you learn how to cope with life. You learn how to not disappear from it.
Yes, and we see real life examples every day of people who either choose their addiction or choose to live that way in recovery. And it's why I love my job.
Me too. Right? It's the best thing in the world. Because
recovery is amazing.
Recovery, in my opinion, is the principles of recovery is really, truly the only way to actually live.
Yes.
So whether or not you got an addiction or not, the principles are worth pursuing.
Yeah. So, well, I hope we answered that question.
It's good discussion, Brandon.
Yeah, that was excellent, Tyler. So.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. If you like these episodes, please share them with your friends. We are always trying to have a deeper reach and make a better impact. So we appreciate the support that you have. If you have questions for our podcast, you can visit therapybrothers.com, or you can go to lovestrong.com and submit questions there, as well as to brandonpatrick.com.
Yeah. So wrap this up. I need to go get a corn dog.
It's time for lunch, man. There's a Maverick literally 2 blocks away.
See you guys. Do you feel like no matter how much therapy you do, things really aren't getting better? That you'd like to accelerate your feelings of peace and empowerment because it's just not happening? As a man, do you feel stuck? Do you lack purpose? Do you not know what real masculinity is? Are you unable to create safety and passion and intimacy in your relationships? Are you lacking connection to God? If you're relating to any of these things, then you need to come to our Rising Sun conference. Tyler and I have developed a process and an experience for men to shift into their power, to know who they truly are, to experience their purpose, and learn how to connect to God. So go to risingsunconference.com. Now that's Rising Sun as in S-O-N, conference.com, and sign up there as soon as you can because space is limited. We'll see you there.